my God!
Big goal to go from the two. Toss sweep one for James White. Cuts it up to the right arm. Cuts it upfield. Driving forward. It's diving to the goal line. A touchdown and a title for the Patriots.
I can't believe it!
Play clock at 5. Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler.
45 remaining. Tatum drives down and throws it down. Bases loaded. 2 out. Hard hit into right. Back at the wall. Tie game. Big Poppy.
No icing. For the first time in 39 years, the Boston Bruins have won the Stanley Cup.
Anything's possible! Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Kicking In with Kruse. I am your host, Ben Kruse, and it's been a while since I have joined the airways here on the network to do this show, and it feels good to be back with you guys. And obviously, we got a lot of great sports news and storylines that I definitely want to get into for tonight's program. But obviously, before we get into tonight, I just want to give you guys quick reminders. Make sure to follow our network on the IM6MI6 on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. You could also follow me on my Twitter personally, or now X, at BenCruz144. Once again, that's at BenCruz144, all lowercase, and my name. Yeah, like I said, it's been a long time since I've been on in terms of doing my show. I just had a lot of stuff going on recently, work related and stuff. So it's good to be back. And obviously tomorrow is Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers that are out there, including my mom. Shout out to you, Mom. Love you. And, yeah, in terms of sports out there, just a lot of sports going on. Of course, NBA playoffs, we got NHL playoffs, we got baseball obviously in full swing. Even a little bit of NFL stuff, because NFL typically just never sleeps no matter what time of year it is. So, yeah, it's obviously a really good time to be a sports fan, and I just can't wait specifically to talk some sports with you guys. We plan to hopefully get on some of our co-hosts as usual for tonight's show, so that should be great as well. To start off tonight's show, I think we're going to start with some NBA, and obviously NBA currently is in their quarterfinals. Semifinals are going to be projected next. And I just kind of want to go to overall in terms of how the series are looking right now. Obviously, my team and the Boston Celtics are currently in the quarterfinals, taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers, Donovan Mitchell, and Darius Garland. And the Celtics tonight had game 3. Of course, they took 1 of 2 in Boston. Really, the first game, the Celtics pretty much steamrolled the Cavs from start to finish. The second game, it was pretty much all Cleveland. It was very reminiscent of last round series against the Miami Heat, where the Celtics essentially kind of steamrolled the first game, and then they kind of let their foot off the gas in the second game. They got some other guys kind of going for the Cavs, and obviously Donovan Mitchell, it was absolutely going crazy. He was really good again tonight. This is obviously somebody that is one of the best players in NBA for a reason, so it's going to be a massive test throughout this series for the Celtics to contain the one and only Donovan Mitchell. But the Celtics tonight had to go to Cleveland, as they now have their game 3 and 4 in Cleveland, and the Celtics were able to come away with a game 3 victory to go up 2-1 in the series. The final tonight was 106-93 in favor of the Celts. And tonight was all about Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Obviously, a lot of people were kind of giving Jason Tatum a little bit of criticism. And I love Jason, deservedly so. He's playing okay, but I think personally we haven't really seen yet that big-time game yet from Tatum. This was his first game tonight that he eclipsed 30 points actually in the playoffs. And I think personally for him, it's all about him just being smart and essentially being the Jason Tatum that we know and love. And that's essentially like we saw him tonight. He was pretty much in attack mode early. His defense was really great. But it's really just him attacking the rim. I thought that was great from Jason tonight. And just, I think, everything really in his game tonight. I mean, he was 2 of 8 from 3. So obviously his three-point game still needs some work. But I think just overall, his overall confidence, I think, was massive. And I think that's a big confidence, too, for the team because he is obviously your guy to have hope for in terms of trying to lead this team to a championship. So you need to have him really get to that next level. And against a team like Cleveland, where they're a very solid team, I give him credit where credit's due. But if Jason Tatum plays like he did tonight, and if Jaylen Brown plays like he did tonight, I don't want to jinx anything, but my chances for the series feels pretty good for the Celtics as long as they play their game the right way. And I think specifically, like I said, I think this is going to go at least 6. I had Celtics in 6 in terms of my prediction. But yeah, I mean, big win for the Celtics tonight. They at least had to take one. You didn't want to go down 3-1 overall in this series, regardless of what happened on Monday. If you make it 2-2, you come back. But you don't want to have that, must-win mentality. Be like, oh, like you're down 2-1. Now you really have to win this one. Even if you have to go back to Boston to potentially cut it to 3-2, you want to have that series lead going into Monday at least 2-1 to have at least the momentum. And worst comes to worst is, it's 2-2, kind of like it was Boston the first 2 games where it's a split. Then you go and essentially it goes from there. So it's the playoffs. Every game essentially is different. It goes back and forth. And I think, like tonight, the Celtics did enough to get the W. Jason at 33. Al Horford, very, very tough game from Al. I wonder specifically, as much as I love Al, just playing extensive minutes without Kristaps, obviously playing right now, I think is kind of catching up to him. He's obviously getting up there in age. And so I wonder specifically if maybe that Joe maybe plays some guys a little bit more off the bench, play a little bit more of Luke Cornett, play a little bit of Xavier Tillman. I think that those guys can at least give you a little bit of some minutes specifically to kind of keep Al's legs a little more fresh because, I mean, tonight specifically, he played 39 minutes. I mean, and obviously took a toll on him, of course. He was very ineffective tonight. He was plus 12 overall in terms of the game, but he was 1 of 7 from the field, 0 of 6 from behind the arc with only 2 points. Drew Holiday, I know people want to talk about Jason and Jaylen, but Drew Holiday tonight had a very, very good game. Drew had 7 of 10 from the field, 3 of 4 from 3, 1 of 2 from the free throw line, but he was 18 points, and he looked like Drew Holiday specifically, I think, that we really got in terms of from the trade this offseason. And obviously got into a long-term deal. This is the Drew Holiday I think that we really want to see for the Celtics. It's a big game tonight from Drew. Derek White, not a massive game, but I think Derek, after kind of a tough start to the game, hit some big-time threes. He hit a couple threes in that fourth quarter to kind of keep that lead as the Cavs were trying to claw back, after the Celtics were up as 23 points. They cut it down to around 11, 12, actually more of around 9 at one point. So I did kind of get a little worrisome of, oh, here we go again, as the Celtics did blow a massive lead to them the last game they played against the Cavs. So I was kind of bringing me a little bit of bad memories. But thankfully, the Celtics were able to hold on tonight. But yeah, Derek overall wasn't great, but obviously he did enough specifically to make an impact, especially a little bit of defense in that fourth quarter. So Derek finished with 12, and then Jaylen. Jaylen obviously was incredible tonight. He continues to be Jaylen Brown that I know and love. 2 of 3 from 3, 13 of 17 from the field, 41 minutes, 28 points. So combined with Jaylen, Jason, you had a total of 51 points between both of them. And, that's essentially going to get it done more nights than not for the Celtics. Sam Hauser, only 10 minutes. We'd love to see a little more minutes from Sammy Buckets. But obviously that's, of course, Joe's call. He was 2 of 3 from the field, 2 of 3 from 3. Only 6 points. The Celtics really didn't have much coming off the bench tonight. Peyton did have 22 minutes out there on the court. He actually hit a massive three in that fourth quarter. He only had 5 points, but I think if you're the Celtics specifically, hopefully Joe in Game 4 on Monday night can maybe balance a little bit of his bench play so some of the starters don't get crazy tired when their legs kind of, when they get tired themselves. For Cleveland, the Cavs standpoint, Evan Mobley, pretty solid game from him. Another really good one from Mobley. 7-11 from the field, 1 from 3, 17 points. Isaac Okoro, who really killed the Celtics in the first 2 games, was very ineffective tonight, which was one of the reasons why I think the Cavs lost as well. 18 minutes, 1 of 7 from the field, 0 of 4 from 3, only 2 points. Darius Garland, the Celtics specifically, if they keep Garland under 20 points, more likely than not, they win these games, and they did tonight. 6 of 15, 1 of 6 from 3, only 15 points. And then obviously Donovan Mitchell, completely doing Donovan Mitchell things I'm not surprised about. 12 of 22, 7 of 12 from 3, including some crazy tough step backs on guys like Al Horford, Derek White. He crossed the hell out of Sam Hauser. He's just absolutely a crazy talent. He finished with 33 points. And then Max Strus, 37 minutes, only 6 points. So really, I mean, Mitchell obviously did his thing with 33. Mobley had 17. But then you look at the other guys like Garland, Okoro, and Strus, and they only told you a total of 23 points. It's not going to really get the job done in your starting 5. Karis LeVert played 30 minutes. He did have 15 points. Dean Wade, obviously, who was really killing the Celtics last game against them in Cleveland, he came back tonight, had 17 minutes, but obviously he wasn't the same that he once was last game. So, yeah, I mean, like I pretty much was saying to myself, the Celtics had to at least steal one in Cleveland to at least get back at least for Game 5, either tie 2-2 or going to be up 3-1 potentially to clinch to move on to the next round. All right. Now the Celtics are up 2-1 in their series. Let's go to the other Eastern Conference round, and let's talk about the Knicks and the Pacers series. So the Knicks went up 2-0 in their series, the 2 games that they won in New York, and they went to play Indiana last night. And I didn't really get to watch a lot of it because I've been really focused. I mean, Boston sports this week has been absolutely crazy for me. One night it's been the Bruins, another night it's been the Celtics, back and forth. So it's like I'll kind of tune into some of the other games because I at least try to kind of see in terms of how they're doing, but I'm not like, minute by minute, kind of compared to some of these other games where I'm tuning and glued. That's just kind of one thing for me when it comes to playoffs is I hate to miss a lot of action because playoffs, things can get crazy anytime. So that's why I didn't really watch most of it, but the Pacers were able to get a win in Game 3. The thing in terms of the Knicks right now is the Knicks specifically have to bounce back tomorrow. If you're the Knicks, if you're obviously Indiana, you could come back and win tomorrow, and then it's a brand new series. Because I think specifically if the Knicks are up 3-1, I think specifically they're probably going to close it back home in New York. But if Indiana wins, then it's a best of 3 the rest of the series. And where, the Knicks obviously have home court, but the biggest thing about the Knicks right now is their health. Despite the fact that they're up 2-1 in their series, OG Anunoby got hurt, I believe, in Game 2, and he didn't play last game. And there is potential doubt that he might not play in their game tomorrow for the Knicks. So, I mean, he's their best defender, on-ball defender. And that's obviously some really concerning news if you're the fan of the New York Knicks. In terms of the overall game, some of the stats from the Knicks side, Hart had 10 points. DiVincenzo in 44 minutes at 35. Really good game from Dante. Jalen Brunson, of course, doing Jalen Brunson things, 26 points. So he obviously was awesome. Alec Burks, okay, he had 14 off the bench in 21 minutes, not too bad. But the Pacers obviously had some big games. Siakam 26, Miles Turner 21, Halliburton 35. But obviously, it came to in terms of the big shot. It wasn't from either of these three guys. It was from Andrew Nemhard, as the Knicks kind of had the lead for a little bit, and the Pacers kind of back. It was kind of a back and forth type game, which I remember. But then the Pacers in a big three, and then I think that the Knicks missed their next ensuing possession, and then the Pacers got the ball back, and I think got some free throws because as I'm seeing here, they won by 5, so that's kind of why probably I'll see it here. Correct me if I'm wrong. For anybody that's tuning that watched, the Pacers had to get this win, or else essentially it was going to be 3-0, and there's not been any team specifically that has came back from a deficit of 3-0. I don't know ever. It's just been absolutely a rarity. So, obviously for the Knicks, I wouldn't be too concerned specifically just yet about the series. But if it comes to 2, and you're really still being concerned about OG Anunoby, another thing too that I didn't mention is Mitchell Robinson. Unfortunately, for the Knicks' perspective, their front court took a massive toll as Mitchell Robinson is going to be out for the remainder of this series and for the remainder of the season. I don't know if you guys remember, but Mitchell Robinson got hit from Joel Embiid in the round last series, and he came back, I believe, for a little bit, but he just has been very up and down in terms of his playing availability here and there, and it just sucks for the Knicks because he is an absolute force on the front court, and I just think that even if they do move on to the next round, whether it's against the Cavs or my Celtics, it's just a massive loss because if OG goes down and Mitchell obviously is out for the remainder of the season, it's just so much that Brunson can do and Steven Shuns and all these guys. And credit to the Knicks. I mean, they've had a really good run this playoffs for sure. And we'll see specifically how they do with the remainder of the series. But obviously the injuries are something for sure to watch out for. So we talked a little bit of the Eastern Conference Series. Like I said, the Celtics are up 2-1 and their respective matchup, and the Knicks are up 2-1 and their respective matchup. So let's go from the East side to the West side of things. And the matchup currently that we're going to talk about from the West side. We'll first start with the OKC Dallas series. I did get to watch some of this game today as well, earlier on. This is going to be a really fun series. You got obviously kind of the young, up and coming team specifically that I think is going to be on the rise for years to come, and that's the Oklahoma City Thunder. Obviously with Chet Holmgren and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Josh Giddey. They just obviously have a lot of great pieces over there. Taking obviously Dallas, of course, with Luka and Kyrie. PJ Washington obviously playing pretty well there too. So, you just got stars back and forth, 2 really young budding stars. And, right now Dallas has a 2-1 series lead, but I could see this series for sure going 7 games. I just think that both teams are pretty even. I don't really see a mismatch specifically in terms of it's one team or the other has the massive edge per se. So I could see this series going 6 or 7 games, and we'll see in terms of where things head from here. These 2 teams play each other back on Monday. And then the Minnesota-Denver series. So right now Denver is down 2-1 in their series, and I think that, if you told me specifically that this would be the case, as of right now, I would call you crazy. But Denver got punched in the mouth really in their 2 first games at home against a really, really good Minnesota team for sure. That I think that as the playoffs have gone on, a lot of people are starting to realize how good this team is. But I think in game 3, when Denver was down 2-0, Denver pretty much handled business kind of from the start to the end, and they pretty much showed to the world that we're going to hang in this, and we're the defending champs for a reason. So it's going to be back and forth. I think if you're for the Nuggets, you're still down 2-1 in this series. know, obviously for the Timberwolves, they can still win another one to get up 3-1 for a chance to win in Denver. But I think if you're the Nuggets, if you get that another one in Minnesota, you got to feel pretty good about it, because I think when you're down 2-0 after the 2 games that you kind of got blasted in, you can kind of take a step back and be like, all right, we're back. Well, to specifically how we're playing. So I think that's pretty much that for right now. And so, like I said, I'm definitely going to be kind of updating you guys for the next several weeks on how these series are going to be going. Now, obviously, we'll stay in the NBA, but we're going to kind of go away from the actual matchups. And we're going to talk about a coaching hire. Actually, two coaching hires that had transpired this week. And the first one is from Phoenix, as they have officially hired Mike Budenholzer, who was the former Milwaukee Bucks head coach for a long time. He obviously, the Suns specifically, moved on from Frank Vogel, and now obviously they have their new head coach. And I think this is a pretty solid hire for the Suns. I think overall, we'll have to see in terms of how their offseason goes. Does one of their pieces get moved on? Does not? We'll have to find out. But Budenholzer has been around, around the block for sure for a long time. And I think, with Phoenix, they obviously have to figure out, like I mentioned, are they going to keep the core or not? But they obviously know that they had to make a coaching change. And Budenholzer obviously is somebody that they paid a lot of money to. So they have, a lot of confidence that he is going to hopefully turn things around for them after the Suns got swept in the first round and their matchup against Minnesota. So good for Phoenix. They got their new head coach. And the Hornets, I believe, also got their new head coach this week. Bear with me, folks, for a quick sec here. Charles Lee. Yes, Charles Lee is the new head coach for the Charlotte Hornets. And as a Celtics fan, I'm obviously a little disappointed because he was on the Celtics staff this year. And I thought he did a pretty good job helping out the staff for sure. Sec. So yeah, I think overall this is a really good move for the Hornets, and it's a really young team. Obviously headlined by LaMelo Ball. They obviously have Grant Williams, Nick Richards, just a lot of young pieces there. Mikal Bridges obviously is still over there as well too. So yeah, I mean, this is a really good overall solid hire thing for the Hornets. Obviously they're a rebuilding team right now, so this is obviously kind of a hire that I'm not surprised that was going to transpire. All right, so I think that pretty much kind of concludes a little bit of NBA for tonight. Like I said, kind of want to get overall kind of kick off with some of that news. Let's go to some hockey. I don't really talk a lot of hockey on this program, but you know what? With myself being at least on my own for a little bit of time, and the playoffs are currently going on right now, I feel like it might be time to kind of talk about it here on the airways. So this is kind of a new little segment we're going to have here on the program, at least for tonight. So I'm excited to talk about it with you guys. So obviously the NHL quarterfinals are also going on currently right now. Obviously the NHL draft is going to be coming up in a couple weeks. My co-host Isaiah is a San Jose Sharks fan, and we found out from the draft lottery that the Sharks are going to get the projected overall pick. Um, he's played at Boston College. No, Boston University. I'm sorry. Trying to remember his overall name for you guys. But he is an absolute stud in terms of his overall playing ability. Playing ability for sure. I'm trying to get the first name. Macklin Celebrini from Boston University. That's going to be the projection number 1 overall pick in the NHL draft in a couple months. But congratulations, obviously, for that news specifically. But we're going to talk about some playoffs right now, at least that are currently kind of the main headlines in hockey right now. And currently, in terms of the series tonight, obviously, we have 2 games in terms of one from the East and one from the West. The Rangers and Hurricanes play Game 4 of their respective matchup tonight. The Rangers had a chance to sweep the Carolina Hurricanes tonight in their building to move on to the next round. However, the Hurricanes stay alive. They get at least one win to move on to New York to play a Game 5 in New York on Monday night. So I think for the Rangers, I think they're still going to be okay because, down 3-0. I mean, for Carolina specifically, I just don't think that they have the goaltending consistently to bail them out to make a massive comeback. And I think that the Rangers are too good of a team to not make this comeback from Carolina standpoint a long-lasted one. So I think specifically, I was surprised that Carolina at least took one because they're a pretty good team. They're a solid team specifically, but I do think that the Rangers in this series have been the far better team. So I think that they're going to win on Monday night, and I think that they advance to the next round, but we'll see in terms of what happens. Of course, anything could happen in the playoffs. We got Western Conference Game 3 going on in Dallas and Colorado. A really good series so far with both of these teams. Dallas blew a 3-0 lead in Game 1, and Colorado was able to get an OT winner from Miles Wood to get the Avs up in that series. And then Game 2, the Stars were able to come back in that series. They almost blew another lead, but they were able to hold on in this one in Game 2. Now it's 2-1, and they're game tonight currently after the second period of play. The Stars are up 2-1 going into the third period pretty shortly. Now let's talk about the other matchup in the East. Of course, it's my Boston Bruins taking on the Carolina Panthers. Obviously, the Bruins were able to pull out a thrilling series win last series over Toronto. Obviously, I think a lot of Bruin fans had a lot of PTSD going in their heads, including myself, after being up 3-1, blown a 3-1 lead specifically to have the Leafs force a Game 7. And then the Leafs, obviously, in the third period, got the first goal. And I'm like, within 10 minutes, remainder of that third period, I thought the season was over from there. This was a week ago tonight, actually. Currently, right now, I bet I'm still sweating and shaking from that overall game. But after the Leafs got the goal in the third period, Hampus Lindholm, obviously, who had a really big game that night, was able to get a massive tying goal. And then, obviously, they forced overtime, which I was not feeling great about, I'm not going to lie. But David Pastrnak was able to be the hero for the Bruins after Jim Montgomery called him out after Game 6 when the Bruins lost to Toronto 2-0. So now, obviously, that leads the Bruins to take on the Florida Panthers, who the Bruins currently right now are down 2-1 in the series. The Bruins, obviously, Game 1, they look great. They essentially kind of build it off of the first game, the Game 7 from Toronto. But I also think partly, after kind of looking at this series so far, is that Florida had a massive stretch of not playing. I mean, they essentially beat Tampa in 5 games, so they just I don't think that they were ready to play. But the Bruins were ready to play, and they had the one series one. Like at least stole one in Florida, which is obviously massive. Game 2 was a shit show. I mean, the Bruins got the first goal of the game to be up 1-0, but then after pretty much the second period of play, they just pretty much shit the fan. A lot of fighting, obviously, kind of the attack that Florida plays. Pretty much in the third period, it was basically a wash. Is essentially as Florida came back to tie that series up 1-1. Yesterday, the Bruins lost 6-2 to Florida, as Florida currently has a 2-1 series lead, going to Game 4, which is happening tomorrow at 6:30 in Boston. Game 3 overall for the Bruins, it was not pretty. The Bruins only had 8 shots on net for the first 2 periods of play. The first goal that Florida has a little bit on the flukier side, but the Bruins just did not come to play. And against a team like this, you can't be a step behind. You can't take a lot of stupid penalties, and you just have to play full 60 minutes to give yourself a chance to, have this series go as deep as it can, because you're not the better team than Florida. As painful as it for me to say, they're just a much better team. But they're not unbeatable per se. I think for the Bruins per se, they just got to play their style of play tomorrow and see if they can win this game tomorrow night. They lose tomorrow, the series is done pretty much, down 3-1. You have no chance to come back against this Florida team. But if you make it 2-2, there's hope. There's at least some hope. I had Florida in 6, but, we'll have to see about that. But the Bruins are currently down 2-1 in their series, and we'll figure out specifically what happens tomorrow in Game 4. And then the Oilers, after blowing a massive lead in their first game, for the Canucks to come back and win, the Oilers were able to get their revenge the other night to win in overtime, as the Oilers got a massive win over Vancouver in overtime, 4-3. The series is now 1-1. Edmonton's probably thinking it should be 2-0 them, but at least for them to kind of bounce back after blowing that first game, I think they at least feel a little bit better from there. Also in NHL, really quickly before we go to baseball, is the Toronto Maple Leafs, after another collapse per se on Toronto's side of play. They have officially fired their long-term coach, and that's Sheldon Keefe. This shouldn't really come as a massive surprise by anybody. Toronto's essentially just been that team where they've had a pretty solid regular season for the last many seasons, and they just have this inability to perform with all this talent and win games, and moving on to series. They can't do it. It's just kind of in their blood and DNA. Unfortunately, I don't really feel bad for Leafs fans, because they talk a lot off the air, a lot of fans specifically. And as a Bruins fan specifically, it feels nice to always to break their hopes and dreams of beating this Bruins team. Even the worst Bruins team currently right now, it's more of like a rebuilding team. After the Leafs, poor them, thinking they had a shot, being down 3-1, they come back and they're like, oh my God, here comes the comeback. And then just for it to come down in flames in Game 7. So I think for the Leafs specifically, now it's all about a coaching change. Wouldn't shock me if they look at the former coach from the Blues, trying to remember his name, Craig Berube. That was it. Craig Berube was on the Blues, but I think specifically he might be on the market. So the Leafs could be a potential candidate for him. But now it's all about their overall core. They got some guys specifically that might stick around, might not. Mitch Marner obviously is a free agent. I don't know if he's a free agent, but there's been a lot of talks of him not being around next year. So he could be definitely a piece specifically that's been there for a long time, even though that he has said countless times that he wants to stay in Toronto. William Nylander, obviously, I think will stick around as well as Austin Matthews. Those two guys I'm not really worried about if they're the Leafs. But John Tavares, he's obviously getting older in age. We'll see what happens with Johnny T. And then Bertuzzi's a free agent. We'll see in terms of what happens with him. But that's the really big news that kind of happened outside of the playoff series that's going on right now in hockey is that Sheldon Keefe has been fired from Toronto. All right, let's go to MLB. So we'll kind of do a really quick standings update before I get into my overall team report. And obviously the season's still pretty much, I'm gonna say early, but I think that for a lot of teams at this point, you're kind of at the point of time of baseball where you kind of see overall if your team is a contender, a pretender, a team that's just kind of middling, or a team that is just not going to be pretty good or very good per se. Just a team that's more in a selling phase by the deadline in a couple months. So with that being said, let's go through a really quick standings report. Starting in the American League, leading in the East is the Baltimore Orioles at 26-12. Number 2, we have currently the New York Yankees, 26-15. They're 1.5 games back. My Boston Red Sox, after the win today, they are 1 game up, 20-19, 6.5 games back. Not ideal, but we'll talk about them in a little bit after our standings update here in baseball. Tampa Bay is 4th. Toronto is last. Toronto has had a really down year specifically. They've had some guys that have been underperforming, and it just has not been a good situation over there. And the Central, the Royals and the Guardians currently are both eyeing for that top spot in the AL Central. I mean, this is going to be a really good, fun race for the whole season. The Twins are currently only a half game back. The Twins have been playing pretty good ball. They're 7-3 in their last 10 games. The Tigers are 20-19, 3.5 back. But then you have the White Sox, who are going to be pretty much a basement dweller for the whole entire season. They're 12-28. Now let's go to AL West. The Mariners currently are in first place at 21-18. The Rangers are 22-19. The Oakland A's are 18-22. Shout out to Isaiah's team, as 18-22 isn't of course great for many teams, but I think for the A's, they're obviously just trying to just have a better year than they had last year, and at least to have their fans at least being engaged for competitive baseball, because obviously they're not going for any aspirations of championships or playoffs. They just want competitive baseball. And then in fourth place, actually it's tied for fourth and last place, you have the Houston Astros, who've just been an absolute question mark pretty much from the start of this season. Is it they're managing, after moving on from Dusty Baker? Because this is a team specifically where it's like, okay, April, obviously there's a lot of teams that just come with the bad starts, but then, we're kind of in the middle of May, at least the early start of May, like mid to May, and they really just haven't got things going yet. I mean, I'm not obviously mad about that, because the Astros have been a team that I think a lot of people are kind of sick and tired of seeing do so well so many years. But it also is very weird that, kind of the way that they've been playing so far, that they're just not playing the way that they want to be playing. 14-25, as well as the Angels. The Angels, obviously, Mike Trout, very unfortunate once again. He's probably going to be out for pretty much most of the remainder of the season. I mean, he could be back maybe by July or August, but that's obviously still a lot of time on their hands, and I feel like the Angels are probably going to be selling more likely than not come the deadline. And the National League, pretty good overall race right now in the front two. The two teams that I pretty much expected to be there at the top. The Phillies are currently number 1. They're 28-12. They're 9-1. The Phillies are in the last 10. The Atlanta Braves are 24-12. They're 2 games back, but they're on a 4-game winning streak. They were within 8 out today against the New York Mets at Citi Field for a combined no-hitter. Max Fried went 7 innings scoreless, but the Mets specifically, after being absolutely anemic for 8 innings and 9 innings with 2 outs, JD Martinez was the hero to preserve the no-hitter, but unfortunately the Mets fell short in that one. The Nationals, who currently the Red Sox are facing this weekend, by the way, the Nationals are 19-19. They are in 3rd place, 500. They're 8 games back. They've been kind of a little bit of a surprising team so far. The Mets, after a very slow start to the year and then a very sizzling turnaround, have kind of started to come back down to earth. 18-20. Kodai Senga now has a setback. They're 4-6 in their last 10. The Mets are just currently really struggling to get things going. And then you have the Marlins, which we'll talk about after my team report, and just kind of some news around the league. The Marlins currently are starting their fire sale very, very early, as there is some news from this week that there is a player that is currently already traded. And what does that happen for the remainder of the guys getting moved to come? We'll talk about that in a little bit as well here on the program. And then we have the NL Central. Milwaukee, 24-15. They are currently in 1st place. The Chicago Cubs are in 2nd. They're 23-17, 1.5 games back. The Pittsburgh Pirates are 18-22, 6.5 games back. Paul Skeens, the number 1 overall pick, made his major league debut today. Give a lot of credit to him. He looked really, really good. The Cincinnati Reds are 1-9 in their last 10. They've really fallen apart as of late. They're 17-22. They're in 4th place. And then you have the St. Louis Cardinals, who are just currently not able to kind of get things going. They have a lot of question marks. Paul Goldschmidt is getting another year older. He's a free agent. I think they're going to probably cut bait, maybe at the deadline for him. They could be in potential fire sale as well with them over in St. Louis. Very unfortunate because they have a very good baseball talent. Let's go to the NL West to conclude our standings update. The Dodgers are in 1st place because that's not a surprise. They're the Dodgers at 27-14. They're 8-2 in the last 10. The Padres, who made, by the way, a move, hint, hint, this week, they're 21-21. They're 500. The Diamondbacks, who are 5-5 in their last 10, they aren't really off to the hottest of starts, but they're kind of still within reach of kind of turning their season around. They're 18-22, as same as the Giants. They're 18-23. 2 teams specifically that have gone off to rough starts. And then you have the Rockies at 11-28. They are going to be down the basement for the whole entire year. So that is that. We're going to go to a quick 30-second break. And then coming back from our 30-second break, we will continue with our baseball segment. We will talk my Red Sox in terms of a team report, and then we'll talk about some news around the league. So we'll go do a quick 30-second, little break here on Kicking with Kruse. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to Kicking It with Kruse. I'm your host, Ben Kruse. And now we transit over to my team report, and that is the Boston Red Sox. The Boston Red Sox currently are 20-19. They really had kind of a sluggish month so far, if I had to kind of put into words at best. But they did have a good one today. They won 4-2 They got some pretty good pitching today from Cooper Criswell, who has been kind of a Swiss Army knife, if I had to say the least. I didn't really think much about Cooper Criswell at all to start the year. Um, but, give credit to where credit's due with Andrew Bailey. Really in this season so far for the Red Sox, he has really, at least so far, has gotten the best out of specifically some pitchers that you might not be able to get the best out of from other teams and other staffs. So currently, the Red Sox are still number one in team ERA in pitching. So that's been absolutely awesome. The big issue recently with the Red Sox is their offense and their consistency. Just the really quick recap overall. In May, they they took 2 out of 3 from the Giants when they were 18-14, but then they faced a hot Minnesota Twins team in the first weekend of May, and they didn't look great in the first 2 games. They had some opportunities. I thought that Houck obviously pitched in that Friday game against Minnesota, pitched okay, but they only had 2 runs against Chris Paddock, who, it's not ideal. Paddock's a good pitcher, but they didn't get anything going. Then game 2 in that series, Sox lost 3-1. Pablo Lopez, the ace for Minnesota, pitched really, really well, but it's just another lackluster offensive game from the Red Sox. So that went their record to 18-16. The Red Sox did get a massive win to avoid the sweep on the Sunday game. They won 9-2. They got a couple homers, one by Ceddanne Rafaela, another from Rafael Devers. So that was obviously a good win. But then they went on the road they had to go to Atlanta to conclude the road trip, and their offense still wasn't looking great. Outside of the win they had against the Twins, they had 9 runs. That was their only win on the road trip, which was absolutely awful to see. The Red Sox combined run-wise, 3, 5, 7, 10. They had a total of 10 runs combined on this road trip, which is just not going to do it for a team like this. I mean, yes, they have some injuries currently on right now, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But hopefully that the Red Sox can have a better, homestand here to kind of take away some of that bad juju from that road trip. And the Friday game yesterday, the Sox lost 5-1. Patrick Corbin turned back the clock and just absolutely shoved on this offense. Pretty anemic once again. Garrett Cooper was the guy that got the run for the Sox. But yeah, just Houck had the loss, but I thought that he pitched fine. Just another that offensive game from this team, and you take away the offense, from a guy like Tristan Casas. Trevor Story obviously has been out. Masataka Yoshida has been out for a while. It's just so much that you can carry from this team, and they've had their offense has been able to get guys on base. That hasn't been the issue. It's been their consistency of getting the guys in. But I think today there's at least a little bit of hope as the Red Sox won 4-2. So obviously that was good to see, but it was also really good to see the win because they only scored 4 runs, but in terms of all the runs they had, one came off of a solo homer from Wilyer Barrio. It was 1-1. They were down 1-0, and then Eddie Rosario for the Nats had a homer to make it 2-1, and then Jarren Duran with 2 outs got on third base. Kind of a situation where the Red Sox have been very struggling with recently, getting guys on base, especially with 2 outs. A massive hit from Jarren. Jarren has done really well stat-wise with guys on base. So that was a massive hit for Jarren Duran. Tie the game for the Red Sox. And then from there, a massive hit from Rafael Devers in the bottom of the 8th inning after the Nationals decide to intentionally walk Tyler O'Neill. A very questionable call from their manager. But, I mean, heck, I'm going to take it. Rafi, obviously, a lot of people have getting on him for not coming up big in the big moments, and he had a massive hit, especially with 2 outs. Another big hit with 2 outs. Got a two-run double, and then the Red Sox, Kenley Jansen went 1-2-3, closed the door on this team over in Washington, and the Red Sox got a big win. Now they go tomorrow, and they get a welcoming sight back, and that is Brian Bayo. Brian Bayo obviously was placed on the injured list because that's pretty much been the Red Sox all year. Is guys getting hurt. Obviously Bayo comes back tomorrow. They take on Mackenzie Gore, left-hand southpaw. Um, Gore is 2-3 with 3.44 ERA, 42 strikeouts. So the Red Sox will be taking on him tomorrow. But hopefully the Red Sox take this series and get up over 2 games over 500, and then they take on the Rays, who the Rays haven't really been as good this year, but they always are a team that give the Red Sox fits. So they have a 4-game series against them. Hopefully, my hope is the Red Sox win tomorrow to take the series and then at least split. If you could at least split, that Rays series, I would be greedy to win that series, especially 4 games, but at least to split it. You don't want to at least lose 3 or 4, get swept against a Rays team that's not been great this year. They've had some injuries. Arena, as good as he is, he's getting a little bit hotter recently, but that's a team that you should be able to take a couple wins from before they go to take on a struggling Cardinals team next weekend. So, as tough as it is for the Red Sox so far, it's still kind of early in the season. I'm not really having a lot of hopes for this team as it is because of their inability to spend from this offseason. So, it's just kind of week by week, really, with this team. Kind of how I'm going to kind of judge plans on it. So that's kind of my team report for the Red Sox. Like I said, 2019, not ideal, not awful, not great, just kind of there. And that's just kind of the team that I know and love with the Red Sox as it's been recently. All right, so we'll stay with baseball here. Let's just get into some news really quickly. I do want to overall quickly send my prayers and condolences to Sean Burroughs. Burroughs was a long-term player for the San Diego Padres and for the Arizona Diamondbacks. He also played in the Little League World Series. He unfortunately passed away at the age of 43. My prayers, my condolences go out to Sean's family and everybody that is affected. We talked about this a little bit on my other program on Hitting for the Cycle. Make sure to check that out on Empty the Bench Network. Obviously, we talked a little bit about me and my co-host Ryan too. We shout out to you, Ryan. We talked about that on that program earlier this morning, which will be put out on YouTube around 4 or 5 p.m. tomorrow. So I did obviously want to kind of quickly talk about that really quick. He was 43 years old, Sean Burroughs was, and just awful, awful situation that transpired over the with that team. So I want to quickly get to that really quick. Last thing in baseball, obviously, I really want to kind of get on is Paul Skeens' debut. Today, top ranked pitcher in baseball, and just absolutely, this is going to be some guy that I think a lot of guys are going to be looking forward to every fifth day, especially with Pittsburgh. I think that he is just an absolute bulldog. He's a flamethrower, and he just has a great arsenal of pitches. I mean, he had a really good fastball, obviously, today. He has a very good slider curve. I mean, he just has a lot of good pitches for sure. And I think if you're the Pirates specifically, they don't have a lot of aspirations for probably playoffs, for sure not championship, but they have some building blocks. I think that they should be really excited for. And I think that if Skeens is there and he pitches really well, I think that's pretty much all Pirate fans are really hopeful for. So really good stuff there over in Pittsburgh today. And obviously, I just love to see guys be able to kind of pitch and make their dream come true. Really, really good stuff over in Pittsburgh. All right. Quickly, some finals. from today. Obviously, the Red Sox won 4-3. Because I have a little bit of time on my hands, I'll probably call it for a night after this. But Blue Jays beat the Twins today, 10-8. Pirates defeated the Cubs 10-9. Orioles over the D-backs 5-4. Phillies over the Marlins 8-3. Braves over the Mets 4-1. Sox over the Nats 4-2. Rays over the Yankees 7-2. Tigers over the Astros 8-2. White Sox over the Guardians 3-1. Reds over the Giants over the Reds 5-1. Brewers over the Cardinals 5-3. Rockies over the Rangers 8-3. Dodgers over the Padres 5-0. Angels over the Royals 9-3. And the A's over the Mariners 8-1. Before we go to my final thoughts and to conclude for the rest of the program here, I'll kick it with Kruse. I do want to talk about a trade, like I said, as we started with this MLB segment, and that is that it seems like the Marlins want to go on a fire sale mode early because they have officially traded Luis Arraez. Arraez obviously was a AL batting champ I'm pretty sure last year over with the Minnesota Twins. He's not a power hitter, but he's a very good elite contact hitter. And I know that he obviously didn't have a great start this year with the Marlins, but I think for the Padres, this was just an absolute steal of a move that they got. He really plays the position well, excuse me, at second base. I think that you look at that Padres lineup with Arraez, Xander, Machado, Tatis, Cronenworth. The Padres, I think, are going to have a pretty solid year this year, and I think that, this is pretty much telling me what the Marlins standpoint is they're ready to just sell and sell early. I've never really seen a team specifically trade a massive piece this early on in the season. But, the ownership with Miami sounds like they just have no hope for the playoffs this year. And I think that they just essentially want to, kind of start selling pieces off. So I wouldn't be shocked now with obviously Rise moving on if guys like Jazz Chisholm, guys like Jake Berger, Josh Bell, Tanner Scott. I don't know about Luzardo because obviously he's been injured. The Marlins obviously have had an awful year so far. They're 10-32. They just have a lot of guys, whether underperforming or just injuries. I mean, they're starting. To be fair, I know obviously the Marlins not having a great year, but to be fair, they have no Sandy Alcantara right now, no Yuri Perez, no Braxton Garrett, and Luzardo's been kind of up and down with his health. So it's like, you just can't outscore teams every single night. You just can't do it. So, like I said, I think that the Marlins are in a state with their franchise that they have to start moving some pieces around. So it's very unfortunate, but that's kind of the way it is. And I think really that now for the Padres, they're in a position where they just want to go and start winning some ball games with the lineup that they have. I mean, I think that, their pitching's at least been okay, but I think that it's all about them being consistent, of course, with the Dodgers just doing Dodger things. And more likely than not, they're going to be the team to be once again in the division. For anybody that's also joining really quickly before I go to my final thoughts, if you guys want to have any comments in here, I'd gladly read them at this point in time of the show. If not, though, let's go to the final thoughts as we're almost at the top of the hour mark here on the program. And like I said, I know it's obviously on the later side, but thank you guys for that did join to kick into the Kruse for tonight. I know, like I said, it's been a while since I've had a show. Like I said, between a lot of working and just kind of other stuff going on my schedule, I haven't had the chance to come back on, but it was good to obviously come back on and I'll just give you guys a good hour of just everything with the latest of sports, everything in basketball, everything in hockey, baseball, Obviously, not really not much in football I really talked about tonight, but obviously, I'll talk about some of that stuff coming up as well. Um, on my next show, which will probably be coming up next week, because obviously, I've been on a lot of other shows currently with this network as of late, and make sure to tune into those. Obviously, Sports Weekly currently with James and Isaiah, and of course, I like to come on with those ones. And obviously, some other shows on the network, that kind of come on for. And obviously, to make sure to tune into, uh, in terms of MI6, IM6 on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And feel free to connect with me on my Twitter or X at BenCruz144. I have it right here on the ticker on the bottom here. So make sure to follow on that stuff as well. My final thoughts, like I said, good show. Obviously it's good to be back and give you guys the content. And I just can't wait to see in terms of what happens with these Celtics and Bruins playoff runs. I'm very proud for both of these two teams. Hopefully the Red Sox start to get back on track here, because I know they obviously have had kind of an up and down type of season. And yeah, it's pretty much kind of what I have at least for this point in time now. I will let you guys know probably early next week, kind of when my next show is going to be. But I hopefully had to have another one coming up pretty soon. And then make sure to obviously follow me too, with all the latest on my other network, which is with Empty the Bench Network. I've been doing a lot of stuff over there recently. I love the network here, of course, and I love to give you guys the content over here. But on another network currently, we are having a connection with Playback.tv, which is essentially a Q&A streaming service for those that are, um, want to come in and watch sports. James, of course, welcome in for the remainder of my show.
Oh my goodness.
I know, obviously.
Where's his name at? Isaiah.
What's that?
Where's Isaiah?
I don't know. He said he was going to come on tonight, but I wrote it off for a decent hour, and I think at least we can obviously talk a little bit, James, probably in the next show coming up. But
Yeah.
I obviously just want to ask you really quickly. Obviously we'll kind of conclude maybe a little bit longer than anticipated since you're on here now. But how are you doing? Have you been watching a lot of these basketball playoffs recently, and any of the hockey? And of course, your Angels, obviously, because I know you probably have some stuff about that team too. So, how you doing? How you doing, my friend? Because it's been a while since we talked.
Yeah. Okay. So I was supposed to come on tonight. I had a food coma, but before that, I had a couple job interviews, and then I had an invite to go play some baseball today, and I did that for a good 3 hours. And it's something I haven't done in years. So I went out and did that. I balled really. I'm sorry. I played really well for once. I was shocked by that. I actually played a little shortstop, which is weird. It's meant for fit people, not like me. But I actually played it because they didn't have a shortstop, so that was kind of funny. So that was weird getting out there, getting some hits or whatever. Yeah, I've been following everything. So, today with the hockey playoffs, NHL, I saw that the Carolina Hurricanes, they were able to extend the series and try to do what may be the impossible. I know the Kings did it, I think, to the Sharks in 2014, come back from 3-0. So I'm interested to see if Carolina has any more energy going back to New York, but it's going to be tough for them. Right now, I'm watching just turned on the Dallas game. That series is tied at 1 in Colorado. There's still like 7 minutes to go in the third period. The other series, what was it? The Edmonton and Vancouver went to overtime yesterday. That was pretty cool. And I saw Edmonton won that game. And what's the other series? I'm so out of it right now.
Florida-Boston.
Yeah, I felt really bad for yesterday because it's like, man, here we go again. Are they going to play down to their level, down to whomever's level again?
Yeah,
I wonder what Ben thinks.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, this year Florida's a better team than us. The team that the Bruins had last year was just unconsciously good. They're taking a little bit step back this year. They obviously lost Bergeron and Krejci, two of their main pieces that have been kind of the cornerstones. So they're more of a rebuilding type team, which is kind of crazy to think for a Bruins type team. But they've been relying a lot on their goaltending and their defense. That's been kind of the reason why they have been as far as they have been so far. But yeah, this Florida team is just they could be potentially in the cup. They're just that good. They have really good top six. And their front two lines are absolutely crazy, and they just go after you, James. I mean, they're just so physical. Their forecheck is absolutely unconscious. Yeah, they're just a very unlikable team, but they're just also a team that if you love them specifically, that specifically, like, we just love to be hated. So, yeah, we're not really even playing down. We're just not playing against a team like this for this year for the Bruins. In order to win, they need to play a full 60 minutes. And yesterday, they were down 1-0, and then they started to play a little bit better, but they only had 8 shots on net in the first 2 periods of play. You just can't have that. And in the second period, as they were starting to get a little bit of momentum, Bruins defenseman Mason Leroy takes a high sticking call, 4 minutes. Florida's on a power play, and they scored 2 goals on it. And that's essentially all that she wrote. After essentially the Bruins thought that they started to get a little bit of momentum on their side, and that's why essentially you got to start from the jump, and the Bruins just have not done that the last 2 games. I was expecting the Bruins to lose game 2 because, kind of after that game 1, I mean, at least to get 1 in Florida was massive. But, just the game yesterday, I mean, there's no excuse to go back home and put a show in front of those fans. Just was not good enough. Poor Swayman, especially in goal, just defensively essentially let him out to dry. He's essentially been going crazy. And if it's not for him making some saves, I mean, they could be even more down by 6-2, like the final was yesterday. Florida had an empty net, which was 5-2, and that was pretty much that. But they have another chance tomorrow night in game 4. So essentially, this is the season for the Bruins. If they win the series, they lose, well, season's pretty much done. So I wouldn't say that they are the favorites by any means in this series, but I also think that they are playing at not a great level in this series to even give themselves a chance right now. So hopefully that they respond tomorrow and make it a series.
Did you expect, as I shift over to the NBA, to the Celtics to lose game 2? We saw that, of course, in the Miami series. It seems like they lose these games, and you're like, what the hell? They're scoring the most points ever, or the most efficient, I should say. And then they have these blowout games. Either the game blowing out most of the time, or they have that one game. You're like, the world is done, basically. But they pulled through today. Tonight seemed like just too much of Jaylen Brown especially. But I'm really happy to see Derek White with the absence of Porzingis. Derek White has really been amazing. I don't think we saw that coming from him, at least, but he's been amazing. Just one game I think he didn't do well in the playoffs so far. So I've been watching that, of course, and then that Indiana-New York series, man. Every game has been a thriller. That game 3 was back and forth. It was like a mad, fiery pace. It was amazing to see that. Both home crowds have been amazing. New York, Indy. I can't wait for that tomorrow. Okay, for the West, I was kind of shocked, but Denver showed some of their championship might, winning yesterday in Minnesota. And all of a sudden, you're questioning, is Minnesota too young? They don't have the experience. After they went to the altitude to beat Denver, it's so confusing right now. Then the other West series, what is the other West series? I totally forgot.
It is. Oh man.
Dallas, OKC. Yeah. Okay. It's a weird mix. This playoffs here. Dallas, I know, came out hot today, and the OKC came back firing. And I think just Dallas had too much firepower, especially at home. We'll see if Oklahoma City could deal with the veterans of Dallas. And Tim Hardaway Jr. didn't really expect to break out, but he definitely broke out in game 2. Who knows? I think it's about experience, But that was one of the things you were worried about with teams like Minnesota and Oklahoma City. Like, okay, they don't have it; they're just going straight in with anything. So that's really amazing to see. How are you feeling about your Celtics?
I feel fine. I mean, like you're asking me about, why is it, why do the Celtics always do this?
Hmm.
The answer really to you, James, is they make it hard. They never make things easy, and it's been that way for many seasons. And so when you essentially ask me, why did they not show up in game two? I'm not surprised that they didn't show up because they just do this to us fans. Where game twos at TD Garden, the Celtics and Bruins combined, James, are 0-8.
Oh my
They,
god!
yeah, that's a true stat. That's a true stat. Game twos at TD Garden are not kind for either team. So when they won the first game, game one, I said expect a little dud in game two, and that's what
Boom.
happened. But then here we go, game three. It's the same script as last round against Miami, and so I do expect that Cleveland will give a punch in game four. They kind of remind me, James, a little bit of Philly and the Cavs, and where they're kind of a team where they have some stars and their coach is okay. But I think that their defense, Jared Allen obviously is massive. If
Big.
Jared Allen cannot play in this series, the Celtics have a massive advantage because there's so much that Mobley can just do defensively. And I think that if Mobley is and high up in pick and rolls, this is where you have guys like Tatum and Brown that are great guys that can drive, that can just do it a lot in these games. And it was good to see tonight with Tatum. I think a lot of people were kind of like, well, what is going on with Jason Tatum here and there, blah, blah, blah. I mean, Twitter was going absolutely crazy with the Tatum slander. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Like, he needs to have this game to shut people up recently. And he comes tonight and puts up 33 points, and where people are just like, well, that should happen for him. I think a lot of people are just like, for me especially, I'm just like, well, it's refreshing because you see some of these games for Jason. I love Jason to death, but it's just like there's sometimes where he just settles way too much. Like, he's making some of these plays. I'm just like, dude, like you could just drive. Like you can just go and attack the basket. Like you have that ability to. And I think tonight he really just started to kind of feel himself. And, he was showing some emotion after these plays that, at the end ones, drawing the fouls. I'm just like, girl, that's what I'm looking for. Because I think Jalen has obviously played really well in the playoffs. But Jason obviously is a guy where he's been kind of more on the inconsistent side. And especially without Kristaps Porzingis, you need to have your star step up still. And I think really for if Tatum can play like this and Jalen continues to play like this, there's just so much the Cavs can do. I mean, Donovan Mitchell, I don't know if you've been seeing him, James, but my God. Like, oh my goodness.
40 point, 50 point.
Yeah, he's just absolutely unconscious. I mean, poor Al Horford is getting crossed up left and right tonight. From Donovan Mitchell just doing step back after step back. As speaking of hockey, by the way, Dallas just took a 3-1 lead in our game. I was watching it currently right now. But yeah, still, Donovan Mitchell is just going crazy. But the thing is with the Cavs, James, is if he doesn't get help along with him, they don't have a chance in the series. Like, I think with Darius Garland, Isaac Okoro, Max Strus, no offense to these guys, but like Donovan Mitchell will put up all the 40 points that he wants. If he doesn't get any support from the other cast, they just don't stand a chance in this series. I mean, I wouldn't say don't stand because I think that's a little too harsh, but I think I have the Celtics in 6. I think that
that's fair.
Even if the Cavs win the next game, I think that the Celtics win the next 2.
Yeah.
I just think that the Celtics they know how to handle adversity now. Like the guys essentially kind of are like, they kind of feel like they feed that. They're just like back on track, which is kind of annoying in a way. And this is why I say, James, like they never want to make it easy. But that's essentially what it is. So
Yeah.
I'm not surprised they lost game 2. They didn't play great. Their effort was pretty poor, so I wasn't too happy about that after the game. But tonight they came back, and I'm just like, yeah, this doesn't shock me. They come back, and defensively, they played really well in the second half, and it's just about game 4. If they win game 4, essentially, go back like you did against Miami and beat the Cavs up and save yourself for the Eastern Conference Finals. What? If the Cavs come back and make it 2-2, well, you got a series again. So we'll see. Like I said, the other series have been awesome too. Pacers Knicks. You didn't get the chance to talk about the Knicks, but as great as the Knicks have been, their injuries have been stockpiling on them. And I talked about that earlier on tonight in the show where, OG Anunoby is now out in terms of his status for the rest of the series. Mitchell Robinson's already out for the remainder of the season. So, and obviously they have no Julius Randle. So, I mean, Isaiah Hartenstein obviously has been okay, but, the Knicks specifically, even if they win this series, possibly, James, they might not have a lot of their front court pieces to potentially carry them to potentially an NBA Finals overall appearance. So the Pacers, on the other hand, a very young, greedy team. Obviously they have pieces there. So we'll see in terms of how things go tomorrow. And then obviously in the West, I think that the Nuggets just kind of show themselves the other night that they're still the defending champs and we can't be pushed around. Even though Anthony Edwards has been absolutely crazy too. Very impressive player to watch for sure. Dallas OKC, I was saying on the air too earlier tonight that this is going to go 7 games. I think that both teams are pretty evenly matched. You got a pretty budding star in SGA, and then you obviously have Luka and Kyrie on the other hand. So I don't think that there's really a team that I look at that's just like, yeah, they're a lot better than. So I think that goes 7 games. So and that's pretty much that for me.
Yeah, I've been really enjoying it. I know the big team or the big names aren't in it, but I'm actually enjoying that part. How, hey, we don't need that. We're looking for every fan base or every team to get in and see if they can make a run like Denver has and Milwaukee. It was pretty cool to see like the different teams in it and still in it and whatever can happen. For me, I'm gonna say what is it in the NHL? I'll say, excuse me, New York over Edmonton for the Stanley Cup Finals. I'm gonna say that. I think Edmonton, even though they fired their coach, they've been really good ever since. And New York is just so damn tough. NBA, I'll go with Boston in the East. I think that's a no-brainer. But in the West, man, it's all over the damn place. I really don't know what the hell is going to happen. I'll say Denver for now. But look, Dallas can mess around and get in. I had that thought earlier today where it's like, hey, it's not like it used to be where like there's a real good favorite. Dallas could, if those two get hot with some help from the bench, they could do it. By the way, the Dallas Stars are going to win. They're up 4-1.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, you're ahead of me. I got to remember that. Angels right now, yikes. They lost a lot of players to injury. Rendon, Trout, Sanu, Adrianza. I mean, there's just a countless list. And it's not really pitchers either. It's hitters. It's position players, hitters. The Angels right now, they have a lineup ready for August and September, which is like the known thing for the Angels. But it's in May that they're doing this. We have players like Cole Tucker, Kevin Pillar has been actually a power hitting source for the Angels. Nino Goodrum. These are just like household names coming in out of nowhere. Like nobody could give them playing time elsewhere. But guess what? Without certain guys, hey, it's like, hey, you can come play here if you want. So that's good for like a 4th place finish, 15-25. They did beat the Royals. They're trying to split the series tomorrow. It's just really bad already. And now you're trying to figure out, okay, who can they trade? Maybe possibly Tyler Anderson to somewhere if they want him. Griffin Canning maybe to Milwaukee. Patrick Sandoval to the Yankees. Basically, I think everyone is on the trade block if they wanted to be, except Neto and Ohapi. They want to keep those guys around. But everybody else can go, basically. So that's how bad it's been.
Taylor Ward?
He's a free agent after the season. So if anybody wants him as a rental, and he's stayed healthy so far. That's what I mean. The last 3 years, he started off so well, but then he has these freak injuries, a couple of them each season, and he can never have a full year of like, okay, this dude's a total all-star. 2022, remember, he came out so hot. He was going to be an all-star, ran into a fence or whatever. The part that the medal's showing, too, he ran into that part of the fence in right field. And he just had these bad luck injuries, and I feel so bad for him. Maybe if he gets away from the Angels, he'll become that all-star. So expect a lot of moves to be made, at least by the deadline for the Angels. That's all I got, man.
All right, yeah. And I was gonna really ask you specifically about the latest on the Otani stuff because I know that we have some latest news with that. About Ipe getting 30, I believe, 30 years sent in prison now after they essentially him pleading guilty regarding the case on the betting. So, do you have any reactions to that before we call it a night?
Yeah, I wasn't shocked. There's I just have tremendous doubt that wasn't all Shohei Ohtani.
Right.
I mean, the fact that Epi had the passwords to everything. He shut off the notifications to all the bank statements or whatever. Something's just off about that. He's the total fall guy, is Epi, and I just have that feeling about it. I hope he gets out earlier. The thing is, too, he lied all the time about his job experience, his work experience on his resume. He never went to UC Riverside, to go to school there. He lied to the Angels. He lied to the Dodgers. Nobody did a background check. Nobody did anything at all to check this guy out and make sure he was legit. Now I think everybody will do it everywhere because they don't want to have a PR nightmare. But he's definitely the fall guy. And Ohtani comes off clean. He's hitting 3-something and 17 home, 11 home runs so far. He's probably the best lineup I think maybe ever assembled, other from the last 4 guys in the lineup, last 3 guys I should say. They won today as well. They're in first place. They feel good. So it's like this never happened for Shohei and Epi. That's what it feels like.
Yep. Yeah, no, I was on my show earlier this morning on my other network. We were talking about this, and I was pretty much telling my co-host, I said that I never really felt that Ohtani, given his track record in the past, is he's gonna get obviously penalized with something, but obviously he's not kind of telling everybody the truth in terms of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that on the other hand, it's just Ipe, I just kind of feel like from the jump was just kind of the guy that was going to be in the most trouble. I just thought that specifically with Shohei's past experience with just everything specifically, like I was saying this morning, I said that, he's never had trouble, accusations in the past that I was so worried about him because that's what a lot of, lawyers and a lot of people look at when guys get in trouble, they look at the past. And he just never was in a certain situation where I don't think that they were concerned about it with him. And I think that with Shohei, even during the press conference that he had with the new translator that was going on, he essentially was just kind of being straightforward about it. I don't know if he was fully straightforward with everything, but he was trying to make it where I'm focused on playing baseball. And I think that's why he kind of started off slow with his overall Dodgers tenure. It's just because it's everything was just kind of put all together, that soul stuff, everything was just kind of in his mind. But then pretty much at this point, it's just well, this guy's just kind of out of my life now. This guy was a best friend of mine for a long time, and he fucked himself over. And now essentially we're apart. And as they say, there's never second chances after you kind of fuck yourself over, especially with what he's doing now. So one guy is definitely on the upswing, and that's Shohei, and one guy's on the downswing of his overall life, and that's Ipe. So that's pretty much everything that I have to say about it.
Yeah, it's just it's not. It's not what we wanted it to be. I think the whole drama and all that. It's hey, we want it more, but you knew somehow they would get away with it. You just knew it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. So that being said, like I said, thank you, James, for coming on for the ending of the program for tonight. Thank you guys, everybody that joined on the program, comments, any comments that we had. James, like I mentioned, and for those that are joining, be on the lookout for another show probably early next week. Hopefully we'll have everybody come on for that. Specifically, we'll talk, the same old stuff from earlier today: basketball, hockey playoffs, baseball latest, and more on this program. So without further ado, thank you guys for joining Kicking with Kruse. I'm your host, Ben Kruse, alongside James Gonzalez. Have a good night, everybody, and we'll see you guys next time.
Oh my God! Big goal to go from the two. Toss sweep one for James White. Cuts it under the right arm. Cuts it upfield. Driving forward. Diving to the goal line. A touchdown and a title for the Patriots. I can't believe it. Play clock at 5. Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler.
45 remaining. Tatum drives down and throws it down. Bases loaded. 2 out. Hard hit into right. Back at the wall. Tie game. Big Puppy.
No icing. For the first time in 39 years, the Boston Bruins have won the Stanley Cup.
Anything possible.